Today I got an important guest for you. The first time I saw this guy, 35,000 people it was at the 10X Growth Con. And you know, when it comes to sales, I'm a student. That's one thing about me. I'm not afraid to swagger jack. And just this month, I'm going to be doing more roofing and real estate content. I got 3 different fix and flips going on, single family properties. I've been really into the real estate market. And so that kind of brought my attention to my friend Eric Cline, who is a leader in finding off the market cheap ass real estate deals for investors and literally has scaled it with hundreds of callers. He's literally one of the best in the world. And I got him here to talk to him about, you know, the opportunity in roofing and home service, but also about this sales apocalypse. It's like I'm in this space where there's a lot of guys, old school guys, they've done business through word of mouth referrals, shaking hands. They know the more hands they shake, the more money they make. They know these things, but they're limited. And I feel like more and more of them are getting wiped out. And if you're watching this right now, you're going to learn at least 5 different tips on how not to get eliminated and how to make more of your time. Because if you're not using social media to sell, if you're not using tools like Zoom, and you know, it's proven that in person you can close a little bit better, but this guy is closing at the same rate solar as we are sometimes in person through virtual. So that's why I wanted to sit him down, do a podcast. Got my man Eric. What's up, my brother? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me out.
Real quick, I like to get to the money quick, but you have such an interesting personal story, okay?
Yeah.
I know my audience is a gritty kind. They're going to appreciate the tattoos, but you didn't always start out on top, did you?
No. Far from it.
So what was your rock bottom and what's the story on how you got to today?
Yeah, so I'm 42 years old today.
Oh, congrats. Happy birthday.
Not today. I'm just saying today I'm 42, but going back where I started at 28, it was a fight. Literally at 28, it was a fight for my life. Without getting into the long, drug out story of it all, crack cocaine was the drug that brought me to my knees. I was, I said I'd never be that guy running the streets with a crack pipe to his mouth. And before I knew it, I was that guy running the streets with a crack pipe to my mouth. If anyone knows Chicago, Illinois, the Cabrini Green Projects is nowhere for a white man to be. And that's where I used to go and bang doors to get my dope. And at 28, back in Chicago, I was a union carpenter. I was blackballed from every job site in the city. I was not allowed to work in Chicago. And the last 8 days of my run, I was able to get $3,500 pulled from my annuity, locked myself into a room. A dope man would come to the door like clockwork. I was pissing in the corner on bath towels. I wouldn't leave the room. And 8 days of not sleeping, whoever has never slept for 8 days, you start hallucinating. And it was, I heard the helicopter circling up, above the house. They kicked the front door open. The ambulance came in with a stretcher. And I heard my mom out there, which I'm visiting here today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I just came from her house. But my mom was out there screaming, just crying at the top of her lungs, saying, "Leave him alone, he's dead." My brother was fighting with the paramedics, trying to get into the room. And the paramedics got everybody back. They said on 3, they were going to kick the door open. And when I heard them get to 2, I jumped out of bed. I opened the door up and I said, "I'm not dead." And it was me standing in a hallway by myself. There was nobody there.
Oh my God.
So I was on I was actually on Bradley's podcast, and I used to always use the word hallucinate. Yeah. And he goes, "Bro, you didn't hallucinate anything. That was a power greater than you, telling you like you
Get the fuck up.
You either die,
yeah,
or you need to do something different." So I got it tattooed on my knuckles, man. 8/9/09 is the day I put it all down. I got over 14 years clean and sober. Went down to Fort Lauderdale to check myself into a treatment center with $8 to my name, 2 pairs of shorts and 2 white Hanes t-shirts. That's all I had. Checked myself into a treatment center. A buddy of mine flew me down there. After treatment, got into a halfway house. And as you can see, I am heavily tattooed. I had damn near all these tattoos you see when I got out of treatment. And I couldn't get a job. And I ended up working as a busboy at some restaurant for 2 weeks. They ended up stroking me a check for $146. And I was like, I got the fuck it's for the first time clean. You know, I wanted to change my life. Here I am now at 28 years old. I'm a busboy. You know, I was a union carpenter thinking I was doing okay as a union carpenter. And I remember my girlfriend, which is my wife now, she came and picked me up at this restaurant and she drove me back to my halfway house. And I told her, I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going back to Chicago. She's like, well, what's in Chicago for you? I was like, I don't care. There ain't nothing here for me though. I go to walk into my halfway house. There was a piece of paper hanging on the door that said telemarketers wanted $15 an hour. And the guy that ran that call center was from Brooklyn, New York. And I called him up. And I was like, hey, before I come into an interview, I have no sales experience. I just got out of treatment. I'm heavily tattooed. I'm a recovering drug addict, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, you're just the kind of guys I like to give a shot. He goes, come in for an interview. I went in for an interview, got the job. And when I say the rest is history, the rest is history. I put a headset on my head.
What's the biggest lesson you learned from that guy?
What is the biggest lesson that I learned from that guy? Is the biggest lesson, it wasn't that I learned from that guy. It was when I walked into this room, I saw opportunity for the first time. Like through a set of eyes, I had never seen it. I saw guys and gals that look like me, talk like me, walk like me. A lot of them had tattoos and stuff like that. So I got introduced to an opportunity where it was almost like my appearance put my back up against a corner. And when I walked into this call center and I saw 200 people on the phones and the energy in there, I was like, this is something I could get down with. This is something I could get good at. And I'm talking 14 years later now, sitting here talking to you. And man, I still got levels I want to get to, but I have cleaned house when it comes to selling shit over a telephone.
Dude, and that kind of like reminds me of everyone that's watching this right now. That a lot of the times they want to figure out how they can take to the next step. And I tell them, hey, create more content, learn how to use technology to sell. But when's the first time that you started like going this different route and actually closing over the phone at a high level and becoming this virtual expert?
Yep. So I worked for this company for a year and a half as just for a year and a half. So the first 6 months, I was an appointment setter where I would alley-oop deals up to guys that could close them. Well, in 6 months, I got real good at that. The last year of working for them, I became a closer. They forced me into being a closer. And when I became a closer, I realized for the first time, because that's the first time I went to commission-based. I had never had a commission job in my life. And when I realized like the more deals I close, the better off I am, or the more money I'm going to make. So I did that for a year for him. When I realized that I cared more about that company than the owner did, I went and did my own thing. So what I did to answer your question is, when I first started my own company, I did it by myself for 6 months. And what I was tracking were my KPIs. My key performance indicators, right? How many dials were I making a day? How much talk time was I making? And how many offers or proposal was I presenting a day?
What I love about that is you didn't even really ask how many are you selling.
Yeah.
Like that's not important.
Yeah. No, it was. So when you say where I could scale this is, I, for 6 months, tracked everything I did. And then all I wanted to do was find someone, I started my first company. I got a office with some cubicles in it. And I'm like, if I can get each one of these cubicles to hit those KPIs, just duplicate what I've already done, I can scale this thing. And the first company I ever started was a timeshare exit company, where I help people get out of distressed timeshares. And I took that from a bedroom, and on year 7, right around 7, 8, I had over 150 people working in my office.
Dude, and you said you were on the verge of $100 million deal. I remember then.
Yes.
Now it's starting to click for me. You had a big place. You were in Miami.
Yeah.
You had like $10 million house or some shit like that.
Yeah, I had a $7 million home on the water in Fort Lauderdale.
And you had the world by the balls. I mean, because like these timeshares guys, we know they're kind of a ripoff.
No, they are.
So you weren't doing a bad thing.
No.
But your basically business was, hey, I can get you out of the contract.
Yes.
And so How did that come down on you? How did that create $100 million loss?
Yeah, I can talk about it today and
All right.
not get worked up because it used to, that was a hard loss to get over.
Dude, absolutely.
Real hard loss. And it was just, I settled everything, officially settled everything in 2021. So it was still just a couple years
fresh.
ago. Yeah. I was at the tail end of, I was 60 days away from selling 51% of my business for $54 million. I was retaining 49% of it. They were going to keep me on for 2 years to make sure the sales would still increase. Because I had 100 guys in my call center. The other 50 of them were administration and marketing. I had 2 offers on the company. One offer for 100% of the business. The offer was $147 million. That private equity firm ended up backing out of the deal before the lawsuits even came. The private equity firm, we ended up going over under an LOI signed. They did all their due diligence. It was a 51% for $54 million. And we were 60 days away from, we literally had a closing date and we were just waiting for it. Me and my wife were we were Gucci, dude. Like, we had plans. We were pulling the kids out of school. We were moving to Hawaii, selling all of our stuff in South Florida. We had a home in Alamorada, house in Chicago. They do. We were spending the money already.
Yeah.
Like, in our eyes, it was a done deal.
Yeah.
And Christmas Eve, I was flying into Chicago, and my phone just started dinging as soon as we got to the elevation where you get reception.
Yeah.
And it was my attorneys saying the largest timeshare developer in the world.
It's like Westgate, right?
It's another one it's got a W in the name, but
okay.
I can't say the names.
Yeah.
It's part of my settlement.
Yeah.
Is they said the company has filed a lawsuit on tortious interference of their contract.
Yeah, because you're out there advertising.
I was murdering their contracts.
You were running ads too, video content.
Dude, we had Laura Ingram sponsoring us. We had
oh, that's right. You had all these.
We had people. Laura Ingram, Rush Limbaugh. We had Howard Stern. You name it. They were all endorsing my company.
Okay.
I was paying for it, but
and it's a very profitable company. Who's paying the commissions behind this on the cancellation fees?
We had only a 2. So we would sign up 650 timeshare owners a month.
And how did the funding work? Like, who paid for that?
The consumer.
And
they paid my company a fee
to get out of the contract.
To get out of the contract up front.
And the argument was they weren't going to be out of the contract. Did any of them get held accountable afterwards? Did they get?
So we only had a 2% cancellation rate of people we could not help get out of a timeshare.
Oh my God.
We were getting 98%
so you were providing
of
a good service.
We were murdering that industry.
And they didn't want their industry murdered.
We were going to be the first company to do an exit to a private equity firm. And
is there something real where big bank beats little bank?
It was that.
Big bank kind of always
It was Wall Street just crushing me, dude.
Yeah.
I got tied up in a lawsuit that it was the big guy crushing the little guy.
Yeah.
We know today that they got a hold of our book when it got out to when we sent.
Well, it's like the cartel, dude. Like, once you have all the money and resources, you can pay your way into anybody's circle.
Yep.
And dude, I mean, come on. Like, if I want in somewhere bad enough, I'm smart enough, and I know people on my level at the highest level are. Yep. Dude, when you have unlimited resources and you're smart and you can sell, is anything possible?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the comeback, because you lost it all. You had it all almost. And, and now you kind of got to go back to, because like, I think a lot of people forget that, a salesman makes it, you're growing as an entrepreneur, but sometimes you got to put your fucking, like, your dirty clothes back on. You got to go make cold calls. You got to go hit the follow-up fucking button.
Everything.
You got to go back to like square one.
Yes.
So what did you go back to square one in? What business were you in then?
Great. So I went from, again, just to kind of paint that picture again, I had over 150 people in my office.
Right.
Getting ready to exit, and went through a 2.5-year lawsuit where my attorney said I could not start another business until this lawsuit was over.
No business at all.
I went almost over 2 years without generating income.
Were you working for other people? No.
I was fighting a lawsuit, trying to
holding on to your nest egg as much.
Hold on to our nest egg, trying to keep my marriage together.
Right.
Like it was.
And you stayed sober doing all this?
Me and my wife are still both clean today. She's got over 18 years.
That's the biggest victory out of all of it, isn't it?
Yeah, dude. Because there were days
Yeah.
that it would have been real easy to say,
Yeah.
So we ended up settling in 2000, the early part of 2021. The entire lawsuit cost me right around $7 million.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I had no income stream.
Mm-hmm.
When I got sued, me and my wife were netting right around $8 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when I told my wife the day I sat across from this attorney that was suing us after an 8-hour deposition, he looked at me in the eyes. He was the one suing us.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Kid, if you can make it through this, you can make it through anything." And I looked at him. He didn't know this. And I was like, "You motherfucker." I was like, "You just lit a fire under my ass." Went home that night, told my wife, "Let's settle. I'll give him." I said, "Honey, if we have to go back to broke, let's do it. Let's give them whatever they want. So one, we can stay together, and two, we can make the next move."
Yeah, they can only take everything. They can't take more than everything.
They can't take this.
Right?
They can't take this.
Right.
And so we settled, and then I told my wife, "Give me a year and a half."
Okay, this is an important thing. Okay, I don't want to interrupt, but the skill that allowed you to rebuild, because people say you lose it all. Like,
yep.
How long did it take you to rebuild it back?
12 months.
And what skills did you use to do that?
Sales and marketing. That is it.
So your value is your ability to sell, and
selling has
get
saved
your name
my life. Dude, I went from an industry where I was helping distressed timeshare owners.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about the wholesaling industry.
Right. Friend Chris Rude, right?
Yeah, he was a guy in the industry that
but
was
he's
doing
also
it.
a Cardone guy.
100%.
He'd invested with the Cardone marketing
Yep.
and TV stuff, so that's where I was familiar with it.
Yeah.
And that's where
So I knew of Chris,
Yeah.
but he's not the guy that told me about it.
Okay.
Chris and I are good buddies, but there was a guy doing this model, and he was like, "Eric, it's the same model as your timeshare model.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to drop a different lead in your system."
Right.
So from the day I made my first phone call in the wholesaling space, which I even this is the day I was able to turn my social media back on. I sat down at a computer. I could have easily hired some guys, but I sat back in the seat. I put a headset back on my head with just me, 2 computer screens, and some leads. And the day I took that picture, Lee, I said, "Watch what's about to happen." And 12 months later, I didn't know anything about the wholesaling industry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything how to run comps, ARVs, I've never rehabbed a house, none of that, but I knew how to sell.
Mm-hmm.
In 12 months, I did 118 contracts. I grossed 2.6 and I netted $1.5 million.
Wow.
In 12 months.
Wow.
And I told my wife, I'm like, after 6 months of doing it by myself, I said, "Let's start building a team."
As a guy that gets leads, all right, this is a question not a lot of people would think of. Like, so the way you were getting their attention, your script,
Yep.
all right, were you doing voicemail drops? Were you getting them to call you back? Were you just cold calling? Were you finding cell phone numbers? Did you have something different or a different hook for both businesses?
Yep.
How did you get in touch with the people for the canceling the timeshare?
So a lot of that, again, was endorsements and Google ads.
Okay, a lot of it came in. Inbound.
Yeah.
A lot of
100% was inbound.
But this is outbound. Completely different.
This is all outbound.
What did you do to try and get them to call you back?
Yep. So I own a call center.
Uh-huh.
And 100% of what we did really the first 12 months was cold traffic. So I can go into any market. I do 100% virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So I can come here to Naples and you tell me an area code or a zip code. I can go buy all that data. Mm-hmm. So the data that I target right now is absentee owner data, meaning I know you own that house, but you don't live in it.
Yeah.
So that's my niche.
Yeah.
I go and I do landlords.
Yeah.
So I would go and buy, at one time I was buying 150,000 addresses a month. Mm-hmm. I would send those out to a call center. I would skip trace the address, meaning skip trace. I have an address. Now I need the phone number to get a hold of you.
Right.
So I skip trace it and I get the 3 most recent phone numbers.
Right.
I send that out to a call center, and then each cold caller would send me 2 to 3 leads a day of someone that said, "That's my house and I'm willing to sell it in 6 months or less."
Mm.
For me, that's a lead.
And you're shelling out a pay per lead to the setter, to the VA. You got like a lead.
They're paid hourly.
Oh, nice.
Just hourly.
Okay, sweet.
$6 an hour. And they'll give me 2 to 3 leads a day.
And you can manage them. And
I have an entire team over there that manages everything.
Beautiful.
Yes. So it was in all of 2023, just because that was last year, we converted 31 leads to a contract.
Nice.
Average contract being 22,000. We still have a cancellation rate and all that, but 31 leads to a contract on cold traffic.
That's really good.
Yeah, man.
And so each Zoom call or follow-up to get a real appointment to a contract, your virtual closing, you're doing, how do you get to the ones? Because like 31 to 1.
Yep.
The biggest thing is spending too much time with the wrong ones because that's still kind of a low closing rate.
31 leads to a contract?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 3%.
Yeah.
You know, like most people would quit.
Most people would.
If their closing rate was 3%.
On my paid traffic, it's 10 leads to a contract.
Okay, that's
right
better.
on Google Ads.
Right.
But the reason so again, it's how do you want to scale your thing, man? Right. Mm-hmm. I was talking to the solar industry and they told me what a qualified lead was. And I was like, damn, y'all are spoiled.
Yeah.
Honestly, like you're missing out on so much money.
Right.
For us, when I get a lead from my call center, it comes into my ecosystem, my CRM. Mm-hmm. I own my own CRM.
Right.
And then I've created what I call the 7 days of hell. So I have a SMS drip campaign. Mm-hmm. As soon as a lead hits my system, it goes through 7 days of hell.
And so you're primarily buying cell phone numbers off the rip because.
Yes.
Because basically to skip trace a good cell phone, you may have to actually send 3 texts for one person.
Yeah.
Is that true?
100%.
And
yes.
And you just kind of spray and pray.
Yep. Well, no, the call center, Lee, their job is to beat those numbers
and
up.
You can leave. I get spam texts all the time.
There's definitely, I don't know the rules, but they're cracking down on that.
On the spam text. I realized that there's Twilio came back to us on some of ours that were even informed leads, people that opted in, but they said they didn't.
Yep.
And then shut the Twilio account down.
Yeah.
But
I've never mass texted.
Okay.
I only mass call.
Okay. And do you use voicemail drops?
I don't do any RVMs or anything.
None of that.
Dude, 90% of my business comes from cold calling.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Well, the roofing industry is really big into cold calling. See, storm hits, all the data's pulled, and there's a whole bunch of people that are going to just call, and they're just going to say, hey, I'm with our RCA. We're in the neighborhood offering free inspections. Your home was hit. You need it inspected. It may be covered by the insurance. You can get multiple quotes, but we're in the neighborhood. You might as well take one for us. Lots of 5-star reviews. Very easy pitch. That is a very, I don't know how many leads per call, but especially after a storm, you can set a lot of appointments per lead.
100%.
And the reason why it's like a lead a little bit warmer than a cold call is because it's in the path of a storm. So there is a lot of call centers that have worked with me over the years doing telemarketing. And what I've learned is that telemarketing, I went all online, all inbound because I got tired of a little bit of a lower closing rate with cold. The thing is, cold traffic's so cheap.
It's so cheap and scary. And this is just my own opinion.
Cold traffic versus warm traffic. Compare.
I love both of them.
Me too.
I swear to God, I would never not have either one of those two.
Right.
I love both of them.
Well, define for the guys that don't know what it is.
All right. So warm traffic is somebody that gets in their car and drives to your store and says, hi, I want what you have.
Goes to Google.
Yes.
Goes to Facebook, watches the video option, responds from a direct mail, calls in off your truck, off your yard sign.
Any of that. Cold is we ring your phone out of the blue.
Who the fuck are you?
Who the fuck are you? Yes.
Yeah.
So, but again, if you have and I'm sure you do, if you have a solid sales process, you can get your KPIs dialed in on both of them.
You're right.
So I know in my cold traffic, I just need 31 leads. I know in my paid traffic, I need 10. Mm-hmm. When you have it dialed in that way, they're both super scalable. This is what, because in the wholesale industry, and it's in your industry, roofing, I actually flew out to California, talk about the solar industry for a second. I flew out there and I was watching a team door knock. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I saw, the owners were back at the office. I flew out there. I was going to help them scale a virtual team. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to see what their virtual or their
door knocking team
did. I went into a neighborhood with these cats and I was like, damn, if the owner only knew what these clowns were doing.
Right.
they would walk past 5 houses to knock that one. They'd walk past 10 to knock one. And I'm like, there's no efficiency or oversight here.
No.
And when I think of how many times I have to call one number just to get them to answer, but I can track.
But yeah, and you're not just calling one number. See, one person would get frustrated if they called a number and it didn't go through. But you've scaled with so many callers, so many agents, and you've got your costs so low that you don't care.
Right. And by the time that lead hits my system, though, Lee, I know it's John Smith that owns 123 Main Street, and his number is the number it is.
He's interested in selling his house.
He's already raised the hand and spent 3 to 5 minutes with someone in another country that has broken English and answered yes to 3 questions I need yes to. I don't need any more motivation than that.
Right.
When's the last time you spent 3 minutes with a foreigner in another country about selling your home or putting a roof on?
Somebody has to be interested in selling their home.
There you go. And when you have that mindset going into, I know that lead went through that, and you can train your closers to not be so thinking a lead is only somebody that shows up with husband and wife and they're going to give you 45 minutes of their time. Like, yeah, that's a highly motivated, qualified lead. So is the guy that spent 3 minutes with someone in Pakistan for 3 minutes saying, yes, I want to see if my house can get a new roof on it paid by an insurance company.
No, I never thought about it from that perspective, because we have these really sharp agents from Guadalajara that almost sound English, but sometimes the better the agent, the worse the lead. Why is that?
Again, I don't know. Maybe it could be the script they're using. I don't know.
Well, basically, sometimes when you twist someone's arm to set an appointment,
yes,
and you're really good at twisting someone's arm, they just tell you yes to get you off the phone.
Yes.
Or basically, there's a lot of different things that can happen. But the bottom line is that sometimes if you're really good at setting appointments, this happens to me, is that people change their mind. Because you've done such a good job when you're on the phone with them. Yeah. And they're just more likely to change their mind when you get off the phone with them. I don't know.
Yes. But again, if you get it dialed in and you know your KPIs.
Well, that's the thing. Like my average cost per appointment for the internet. I think this is important for everybody to understand. These 3 numbers are so important. Cost per appointment, cost per acquisition, and closing percentage. Because my cost per appointment on, typically for a roofing appointment, there is an industry standard of $100, sometimes even up to $200 per appointment.
Okay.
But because I have a lot of volume and I've spent money in many years working with many different outsourced agents, let's say my cost is $65 an appointment.
Okay.
Now, our internet leads, I would give the telemarketing leads, I give a hard time because historically they've closed at 10%. Now, the way they usually work is 2 out of the 10 leads you set, maybe you twisted their arm and they don't even show up, or they don't. And a lot of this comes down to how you manage the salespeople and how they run the leads. But the internet leads, typically, if they are reached out to, given an estimate, they usually close sometimes twice as much.
I'm sure.
Here's the problem, though. Anytime that you have an abundance of leads on either side, what does that do to salespeople?
They get real weak.
God damn, bro. And then what does that do to your costs?
Yep.
It's fucking crazy. So basically,
there is a problem. I don't mean to cut you off. There is a problem. There's a fine line of how many leads you give your team.
You got to.
They have to work.
What do you think the perfect number is?
If we all knew that answer, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Right.
But
in home service, they say if you give people 2 appointments, like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, it would give them a place to go, to have a neighborhood, to then structure their door-to-door or follow up around that day, around that appointment. To me, 2 appointments a day is about right. You start loading a guy up with 4 or 5 appointments. Then when you go to an appointment, the thing is the goal is to run the appointment and then talk to the neighbors. If you're in the neighborhood and you don't say, hey, pardon our mess, I'm here because your neighbor said this, and then you're just wasting opportunity for the best word of mouth referrals. And if you load a guy up 4 or 5 appointments, he's got to run all over town, then he's immediately kind of pigeonholed.
On 2 appointments,
so
they get 1.
There's one other perspective. Maybe you should have a cold call team and then only a team that runs leads.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's 2 different ways to think about it. I personally think that as a company, if I have a company guy that self-generates a lot of leads and I reward that guy with more resources from the company, that is going to create a better retain and growth and culture and belief, that it's going to make up for it, that they're going to give me sort of like more as a human. And as a salesperson, what I like to give people is a place to grow.
Right.
And growing means closing bigger deals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for you, like, what's real estate? Are you looking to, what's your typical deal? What's your typical ideal customer?
For us?
Yeah.
A homeowner where the home is either distressed or they're distressed.
Oh, and you're like looking for the landlords that are wanting to get out of some of their properties.
It's so the wholesaling industry, they always say, oh, we're looking for distressed homes. Well, that's only one consumer we're looking for, where the home is distressed. But consumers, when they're distressed, that's as good of a motivation as a bad home, because they're willing to sell at a discount. Most of the properties that we buy, we pick up under 70 cents on the dollar.
And so if you're buying from a landlord, you're buying from someone who knows real estate. How are you getting the houses from a landlord so cheap?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because I target, don't get me wrong, we still buy owner-occupied homes.
Yeah.
They're not 100% landlords.
Right.
Just for the simple fact, after 2.5 years of doing this, I've bought all the landlord data, so now I have to buy owner-occupied. But they're actually, in my opinion, they're inexperienced landlords, because I buy data where a landlord put the home in his personal name and not an LLC.
Oh, that's smart.
So I know right off the bat,
Yeah.
dude, you don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's got like a 1 or 2 homes
or 15
yeah,
in their personal
and
name.
they're strapped and
Dude, that's an inexperienced landlord that is on the hook for a lot of liability. So
you see that often.
Oh God, yeah, every day.
Oh, nice. Where are the markets that you go after?
I'm in Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio, and Indiana.
What hotspots in Florida do you go like?
Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville. After being in Fort Myers for 24 hours, I'm going to be going home and buying that data.
Yeah, dude, that's where I've been picking up a lot of the stuff.
Dude.
There's a lot of opportunity.
I drove around for 30 minutes this morning with my mom before I came here.
There's a lot of stuff. I got a waterfront house for $160,000.
Dude.
Come on, man.
How did you find it?
Well, actually, the guy worked with me. And so I got it off the market because he was an employee, and I hooked him up. I mean, I probably paid him more than I would have paid a stranger. But, the bottom line is that the lot is probably worth the money that I paid for the house. And, it's a small little house, but the place where people can afford now is $300,000, $400,000. If you are flipping and buying houses for $160,000, $200,000, $220,000, and you're selling for $300,000 to $400,000, well, you're in a fast-moving category that isn't going to be affected really by high interest rates here in Florida, because these people are coming in because they want to be in Florida. And this market's kind of a weird market because people have increased cost of living in their power, increased cost of living in their insurance, increased cost of living for storm damage repair, and believe it or not, a lot of homeowners that didn't get a new roof. So this is the game that they're in. Let me explain it to you so you understand as an investor. Here in Florida, you got a lot of sun, a lot of storms, but we've had a lot of hurricanes. And so a lot of the roofs over 10 years old have existing wind damage. About 90% of the roofs over 10 years old I could get up on and probably justify a claim.
Really?
Yeah. And so the homeowners are being forced to basically replace their roofs or have their premiums double unless they get a new roof. And this is like, I just had one story. Okay, this lady's house is basically paid for. It's worth over $1 million. Okay, she's got a $200,000 left on her mortgage. She's got an expensive roof. Her roof's $80,000, and basically her mortgage was on a really low rate, and her payment on her mortgage, even though she only owned $200,000, it's like $1,500 a month, $1,800 a month. Well, she got dropped by her insurance. She had to replace her roof, and she didn't have the money for it, and so I had to finance it. And shit, now her roof payment is more than her mortgage payment.
Really?
But she's in her home.
Of course, yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
But that woman, if she couldn't afford it or get approved, that $80,000 roof expense would have caused that person to take $700,000 on $1 million, all because of unexpected roof expense.
Yeah.
Because the insurance industry here there's been 7 insurance companies that literally went out of business, and so they're really they've changed a lot of the rules, and they're getting more aggressive, and it's starting to basically mean that if they don't get a claim paid for by the insurance, that they're going to pay to replace a roof. This is just one thing people have to keep up with in Florida.
The whole state, or like right here?
No, this is the whole state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like right now on the East Coast, my market is booming because people are getting dropped and their premiums are getting doubling. And so when we call them and we tell them that we can actually save money on their premiums, and we have a special program, and they don't need any money to qualify, they can get a new roof, and the savings from their new roof will save them on their insurance, because the insurance company doubled their premiums because they have an old roof. Well, if they get a metal roof, they can save 30% from half. And if we can make that a long-term payment, or we can roll it into solar, we can get big tax credits. The whole pitch is solar, insurance, retail, commercial. So it all starts with how I sold Grant Card on the roof. If I can get your insurance to pay for your roof, can I be your roofer? Fuck yeah, bro. Let's do the deal. All right. Well, let's say your insurance company doesn't pay for your roof. Well, dude, the price of your insurance here in Florida is going up. You need a new roof anyways. So I can finance it for you. Your payments are going to be $250 a month. How much did you expect to pay monthly for your new roof? Okay, well, great. This is affordable. Sign right here. You switched it to retail. And then after you do the roof, I mean, whether it's a retail deal or solar or insurance, you say, okay, hey, look, we've done your roof. Energy prices are through the roof. We're guys that you're going to be hit up for solar. If you go with someone outside of us, your warranty on your roof is going to be void. So let us go ahead and do an evaluation for you and show you how much you can save. And from there, basically, whether it's a lease or you sell them solar,
right.
You know, you've got a $40,000 upsell. Well, the one thing about roofing is one of Bradley's buddies, his name's Zach Conley. He has been my marketing guy, has built funnels for me for years. He's seen me hit 6-figure commissions, and he's like, motherfucker, I want more of those. I want to try one of those. And what that is when I got the insurance to pay for Grant's roof, he got a roof that was paid for by the insurance, but it was over $1 million. So that pays 6 figures. That's commercial. And so I took Zach with me right after the storm. He got a lead. The bird dog fee on the lead, he didn't even sell it. The bird dog fee was $115,000.
Damn.
Because it was over $1 million in profit on the job. So when you can learn how to put it all together, it's high ticket home services. It's the best ones, but roofing and solar and learning how to get it paid for by insurance and all of it, it leads to real estate deals, because you got cash, you need to know where to put it. You're also dealing with the customers, finding out who's, like, 2 of the properties I bought this month, I bought from my network. 2 of them I bought from somebody like you, who's a friend of mine who's out here hustling, who's getting tons of wholesale opportunities.
Yeah.
And so that's why if you're watching this right now, I invited Eric. We're going to be doing a virtual event, and we're going to be doing a live mastermind here in Florida. Our friend Chris Rude, hopefully he can be involved as well. You know, the bottom line is people think that interest rates are high and they can't make money on real estate.
Yeah, you can't.
Okay, so how's that work?
I'm doing $500,000. No bullshit. This month, we will do between $480,000 to $500,000 in just assignment fees this month.
Dude, there's all kinds of ways to do deals.
There's so many. The interest rates are high, but it doesn't mean guys that fix and flip or landlords or like for 2-3 years, the mom and pops landlords, they control like 80-90% of the rental properties out there.
Right.
Wall Street was buying it up for the last 2 years. They had to sit on the sidelines. So like when we go and lock a deal up for a buy and hold landlord, you have these, you know, you got your doctors, your lawyers, they buy 1 or 2 properties maybe a year or every other year. They all get to come back into the game right now. Like to buy properties, your fix and flippers. Like again, Wall Street was buying it up like no one's business. For 12 months, we were locking contracts up, selling them to hedge funds.
Yeah.
Dude, we would send them a property for $300,000.
My guy's the only guy. This hedge fund that was buying off my guy was buying from all these other wholesalers. But now they only buy from my dude.
Yeah.
Because he's the best.
Yeah.
But their pipeline is shrank on what they're buying.
Yes.
And so it leaves more opportunities. And so this guy who was feeding hedge funds. He comes to me now.
Yes.
And he's gotten rich off of it. So he's doing like fucking 5, 6, 7 on his own out of his own pocket.
There's
doing about 3 a month.
Are you?
Yeah.
But
for me, even doing fix and flips, you might say, why is it worth it? Well, it's an extra $300,000 a month. So an extra 3.6 million. Now I'm a general contractor. I'm already doing general contracting jobs in the area. I'm already managing projects. I'm using my existing infrastructure of crews and people. Now it takes more time.
Of course.
It's not like it doesn't take more time.
Yeah.
But I can decide if I want to hold the piece of property or if I want to sell it. And so if you're watching this right now, we want to actually give you a tour of the property, show you how we're doing it. I'm going to actually give Eric some of the data, and we're going to see what you can do with it, man.
Yeah, dude.
Fucking, I'll buy the properties right the fuck off, whatever your assignment fee is. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, and that's really what we'd look to do with you guys. We'd look to partner with y'all and an opportunity to put the regular blue collar guy into like some badass real estate. You know, my property, this is kind of the American dream in Florida. It's on the water. It's in a good spot. Waterfront property in Florida, hard to find. I bought it for $1 million. You know, at the height of it, it's worth 4. Now it's worth 3. But the point is that I'm literally sitting on like a beautiful piece of, and you know, what's funny, Grant says single family is not a good investment. What do you think about that?
I mean, look what he's pitching though. He pitches multifamily.
Yeah.
Someone that's in single family is going to say multifamily isn't it.
And listen,
pick your lane and go in it.
I followed Grant for a long time. My first multifamily deal was a little 9-unit thing, and I found hard money, and then I flipped it without even spending any money on it and made $300,000.
Yes.
You know, so my last apartment I did with a passive investment group, and it wasn't Grant, it was his buddy, and all the people that were with me made a lot of money, but we rolled it into the next deal. And so sometimes as a passive investor with multifamily, it's like money you don't even see.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's kind of fun to do the single family stuff.
Of course. Yes.
Touch the fucking 100K a flip.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
We have 2 flips right now. The flips we do are virtual. I got a flip going on in Asheville, North Carolina right now, and one in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. Bought it virtual, flipping it virtual. I've never been to these houses. I've only flipped one property in my backyard, but dude, we do all of our flips virtual. And the 2 we have right now, they'll net us between $275 and $300.
Yeah, and so if you're looking to get into wholesaling and finding deals, it's about having a connection to somebody like Eric that can take a list and turn it into leads, and then that
motivated
turns
sellers.
Into literally KPIs, 30 leads for one assignment or deal. And if you're an investor, then why let Wall Street take all the opportunity in America? You know. So like a lot of y'all are like wondering, you know, how to raise capital for something like this. Well, for me, introducing you to an industry where insurance companies are paying for roofs, that
I love it.
You can cross-sell the leads. We're going to be able to jump into lots of opportunity. And all my guys are looking to get into real estate and wholesaling. So there's a lot of win-win for both of us, dude. How can these guys connect with you? You know, what would they do if they wanted to get on a strategy call with you?
Just hit me up on Instagram. It's probably my most active platform. It's the Eric Cline, EricCline, the Eric Cline.
Dude, recession-proof real estate is all about how you sell.
Yes.
It's all about the skills that this man can teach you. Look, you make money in real estate when you buy the property.
Yes.
And if you want to learn how to buy property on the low, we're going to be doing a virtual event. We're going to be doing a live event here, Roofs to Real Estate. Comment below Roofs to Real Estate if you want to be a part of it. I'll get you access. Hey, buddy, thanks a lot, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me out.